You're listening to ABA One-on-One Podcast.
The best way to keep up with everything happening around here at ABA One-on-One is to join our monthly newsletter. Just for joining, we give you $230 worth of free gifts from our sponsors once you confirm your email address. You can unsubscribe at any time, but why would you? Just go to our website, www.aba1on1.club, scroll to the bottom of the page, and subscribe. Hey guys, it's time for a new episode of ABA One-on-One.
Open up, yeah. Open up now. Open up. Open up, yeah. Open up. Open up now. I give a damn dog, give him a bone. Give a damn dog a bone. I give a damn dog, give him a bone. Give a damn dog a bone. I give him a bone.
Hey guys, looks like we're back. Welcome to another episode of ABA One-on-One. Yeah, we got the boys back in the house. We got Rick and we got Brian. And man, you know, it's the weather's changing here in Australia. It's cold, and then next thing you know, the sun comes out. Man, I don't know. That's why we should be all where Rick is over there in Florida. Guys, welcome to the show. How you going?
Going good. How you doing, guys?
Yep. I'm doing good, man. Any better, I'd be twins.
There you go, man.
That's it.
Well, Rick.
Any better, I'd be twins. I'd be two of me.
Well, we just getting used to having one of you, so I don't think we want two.
Yeah,
Rick,
well, that's just a little scary thought.
There you go, man. There you go. Hey, man, what are you going to drop on us this week? Today's topic?
What I want to talk about is, first of all, let me just say thanks to CJ and to Brian and to the ABA family and for their role in trying to keep this basketball deal going through all this crap, all this pandemic we got going on now, and just, you know, so outlet. And I just want to say thanks. And what I want to do, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and which sometimes can be scary in itself, but I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. I got me a Bluetooth earpods, and I've been listening to a lot of Hall of Fame speeches, inductees. I've listened to about every 10 in the last couple of days, and I'm trying to derive some information to talk about. I heard a very interesting scenario. We're going to talk a little bit more about this last dance later on, but one particular part of this that I thought was pretty interesting. They were talking about this Jerry Krause, the general manager, getting all this blame for blowing up the Bulls after their championship in 98, and he was a scapegoat, and him and the owner, they blew this team up because how many more could this team with Jordan and Pippen and all these guys, how many more could they have won? And I heard a very interesting take on that, and he kind of emulated, or he kind of addressed it. Let's say you got a nice car and you got the players of the car. They got a nice sports car, and this thing's driving good. You moving, you going down the interstate, you passing everything, just everything's going beautiful. Now, that's a player's perspective. Now, the management, the owner, the general manager, the management segment, that's not quite their job, because when that car needs to go in for maintenance, and that's kind of was my topic today. The car needs to be taken in for maintenance, oil change, get your spark plugs looked at, all the things you need to do to maintain that car to keep it running smoothly. And in order to do that, sometimes you have to make some changes, and you have to. They can be minor, they can be subtle, but yet changes got to be made. And on that Bulls team, coming back that next year, which would have been number 7, you know, some of those guys are getting older now. They're getting up in years. Their longevity is not good. They have their legs are beginning to go once you get into your 30s. And I think Jordan was in his mid-30s, and Rodman was kind of on his way out. You know, their job, the management's job, is to keep his car running. And if that takes taking it in for maintenance, then so be it. But everybody's saying, oh, no, those guys could have kept winning. No, because this next year, after they won their 7th, was a year that David Robinson and Tim Duncan came on with San Antonio. They won it. But, going against those young bucks every night, there's a good chance they may not have won it that next year. And now all of a sudden their leg is their last, the last game.
Oh yeah. Man, we get you on that. We don't want to go too far into that because we want to save that for a special show. But we do get what you mean about maintenance for a team and for on every level out there for your players, for the management. You have to. You definitely have to look at running the business like a well-oiled machine if you want to do good. I follow you there.
Yeah. Well, see, that's interesting. Because when you I guess if you look at it, it creates it basically it's a philosophy that I guess all teams, all businesses, every sport really follows.
Exactly.
That's you have to, using that same analogy of a tune-up. You need the tune-up. You need spare parts. You got to replace parts. But at the same time, I guess those that maintain their success for a long period of time, and I'll use Bill Belichick as even though I'm not a Patriots fan, I don't like the Patriots, but I am a confessed Patriot, as a matter of fact, but that's a different story. But I will use Bill Belichick as an example. With the New England Patriots, they kept players around, and they didn't necessarily keep them around past their due date. But what they did do is they got those spare parts. So when guys like Tim Brown, who was Mr. Two-Way or even Mr. Three-Way for that matter, who offensively, he was a wide receiver. Defensively, he's a defensive back. He's also running down, making tackles on a special team. But then at the same time, he's returning punts and kickoffs. I see Belichick, he started looking at the usage of players, but then instead of kind of blowing up the franchise or blowing up the teams, he does a great job of introducing the next part or the next piece. And a lot of times he brings in that component to learn from the piece that he's about to replace. And I think just on that analogy, teams today are so geared towards let's win right now. Let's win it right now, that they don't take the time to build it. Golden State's a perfect example in basketball. They build what they had through the draft, and they acquired the pieces to maintain it. Yeah. Now, when one piece was, about to fall off or not, carry its weight, okay, well, let's replace that piece, but let's bring in that piece early. Let's bring in a Kevon Looney early. Yeah. Let's bring in a JaVale McGee early. Let's bring in some of these guys that could work with the piece that we're about to replace.
Let's go out and get a Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Well, when you get a Kevin Durant, that was a stroke of luck, I would say, or a stroke of genius.
That's an understatement.
But see, even that piece of a Kevin Durant, well, that piece there was to replace a Harrison Barnes. Yep. Okay. But then even for Durant, now I know they're thinking, hey, we're going to have Durant a few years, but they also started looking at younger players to start to just fill those roles a little bit. You know what I mean? Now, unfortunately, he left and you got a lot of injuries, and you really can't foresee what happens with injuries. Nobody can. But I think the perfect model is to don't blow it up. Don't give it a use by date, but just add the pieces to see how far that car can actually go. You know what I mean? Just keep tuning it up. Add the spare parts. Yeah. If you need a gasket here, get the gasket. You know what I mean?
Agreed. We also see this in our own league, in the ABA. Jacksonville Giants, who I cannot wait to get Australia built up. I hope they're listening because, guys, we coming for you. They successfully, won the championship. We got over 150 teams in our league, and these guys, they're doing something right. They keep pulling it off at the right moments. They got the three-peat, they got 4, and they're keeping the machine oiled, and you look at their promotions out there, they have the right promotions, they're in the right kind of gym, they have the right kind of players, they brought the harmony all together, and it's paying off, making them kind of have their place in history within our league, which is what every team that's in our league is striving for. So it doesn't matter whether it's NBA, ABA, CBA, UBA, everything still comes back to that same thing, getting the right fix, getting the right tune, keeping everything in motion, keeping it fine-tuned, keeping it working, and I'm glad to see that happening within our league as well.
Well, it's going to be very interesting to see New England next year without Brady, without Gronk, which is now in Tampa Bay, which is about 2 hours from me. But it's going to be interesting to know, was all those championships, Super Bowls, was it the coach or was it the quarterback? So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm really looking forward to that because, I'm a huge Dallas Cowboy fan, which is a Memphis team. I would throw that in, but it's interesting. Brian, you were talking about the Patriots. When you're talking about putting parts in and knowing when to get rid of players, I know Belichick said one time it's better to get rid of a player 1 year early than it is 1 year late. And case in point, Randy Moss. He bought Randy Moss, and Randy Moss is a Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
But he ended up letting him go. They ended up releasing him or trading him. I don't know which they did, but he wasn't with New England anymore because I think Randy Moss had he served his time. He was done. That's what it takes. It's a business.
It really is.
Oh yeah.
But it really is.
But it's I thought it was pretty interesting. But the teams build in different ways. But the one constant is there's always continuity, starting with the management, starting with ownership, down through general manager, down through the head coach, down through players, all the way down. We talked about that in an early episode. Building a program. It's the same principle. You're building a high school basketball program, a college basketball program, pro basketball program, or any kind of program. You got to intangibles.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Principles that need to be adhered to, in order to be successful. But again, that's I always say common sense is not always common. But a lot of times that's easy. Well, no, it may sound easy, but it's not easy because everybody's trying for the same goal: the Super Bowl, the NBA championship, the series, whatever it may be.
But do you think that comes back to the philosophy of the coach? So as a head basketball coach, for instance, your philosophy has to be stern enough to say, you know what, this is how I foresee this team. This is how I foresee this organization or this club or whatever it is I'm coaching at or what I'm involved in. And I must maintain a certain standard in order to be successful? Or do you see that as the era or the time or the circumstances that requires that change? So like I'm saying, so if I'm as a head coach.
Well, that's absolutely correct. We talked about this.
Go on, please, go on.
Brian, we said I lost you for a second. I didn't hear that part.
No, because I was just saying, would that be the philosophy of the coach? Because me as a head coach, okay, I got a system that I like to run. and I coach for my system, or I get pieces for my system. Okay, so in order for me to maintain my status or to maintain that success, I need X, Y, Z for my system. Or do you see it as a thing that the coach itself is saying, you know what, even though I have this system, hey man, this is all changed. So I gotta constantly change and adapt in order to stay successful. You know what I mean? So that, because I know a few coaches in basketball, like one of the coaches that I played for, Calvin Sampson, who's a great coach, by the way. He had a system, but with his system, he recruited players to play his system, but then he was one who adapted to change to the players, as opposed to another coach that I know of, say Jerry Pym, who's a great coach in his own right. Well, he coached to a system. You know what I mean? And they kept that system, and they just kept adding the player that fit the piece for the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect.
Interesting.
But again, though, Brian, here's the deal. All that you're talking about is absolutely true, but there's got to be a buy-in. Now, again, depends on what level. If you're talking about the professional level, the buy-in's got to be with the general manager, the person or the owner, the people that's pulling the strings, that's writing the checks. High school be the same deal. You got somebody you got to be answering to. But yeah, you got to get the players to buy into your system, which is a talent of coaching, and you got to get guys that's going to continue that. But your system, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. You know, your system, it's got to be always evolving. You know, because you're not going to get the same players every year. Your philosophy and your beliefs can stay the. This obviously stays the same, but as far as how you go about achieving it, that you got to alter it. You got to make some alterations here and there just to keep it going. Did I hear you right, Brian? You said Kelvin Sampson?
Yeah, Calvin Sampson. I played for Calvin in college. Actually, we still stay in contact. Like when I first went to school, I went to Montana Tech, and Calvin was
Butte, Montana.
Butte, Montana, and Calvin was he's the assistant coach there. That like the year before, 2 years before I got there, he had took over as a head coach the year before I came in, and with that, played there for a couple of years myself. We won a couple of championships, and then Calvin got the job to go to Washington State, and that's when I left and went to UC Santa Barbara. But we've been in contact all this time, the past 30 plus years. As a matter of fact, last year, in September of last year, I flew back to Montana because we were all inducted into the Montana Tech Hall of Fame.
So,
but we stay in touch constantly.
I feel a little bit reluctant to tell you that Kelvin Sampson was my point guard my first year out of college, Pembroke State University.
Pembroke State. Yeah.
I worked there. It was my first year. He was our point guard.
Yeah,
but
man,
I talked to Kelvin 2 or 3 times a week.
You really are a Jedi.
Then the next time you talk to Calvin, you
dad,
let him know that
Obi-Wan
we do
Kenobi.
this show.
Probably tomorrow. Probably tomorrow, Brian.
If you talk to him tomorrow, he knows exactly who I am. He will not. Calvin won't forget me. Trust me.
Off the air, Brian, we got to talk again about this. That's incredible. That is incredible.
Yeah, because I know the whole family. I knew Kellen when he was still in the womb.
Yeah, and Colin, the daughter. Yeah, they're wonderful people.
Oh yeah,
wonderful people.
A great family.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Yep. See, it keeps happening. I mean, that's how Rick and I met through one of my friends just happened to be in his city and looking for a condo, and Rick ran into him, or they ran into Rick. Boom. Next thing you know, all our basketball connections, everything come out. Now you guys got, it's crazy. The world's getting too small. The world's getting small.
But
The basketball world is small.
Yeah, he told me he had a friend.
Say that again, Rick?
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. I said, yeah, he tells me, he says, I got a friend in Australia. He said, I can hook you up with. And I said, man, that'd be awesome. I've been to 5 continents, Australia and Antarctica being the only 2 I haven't been to. But I said, if I can knock Australia out here in the next year or so, I said, I'll be looking at Antarctica and I'll have all 7 of them done.
Yeah, we'll get you out of here. Don't worry, bro. We'll get you out of here.
That's unbelievable. The more things change, the more they stay the same.
That's it, man. That's it. Hey, but the world of basketball, as it evolves, I'm just amazed. Like, every now and then I call Dale Ellis, and just see how he's going. People that we're going to be working with, and back when I'm growing up in all this mix, you think, how would I wouldn't imagine that I'd even have these kind of reach in the game today, and people that we all work with, we're going to have Paul Mokeski on the show soon, and Greg Kite, and, some other great people that we've all come in connections through with just because we're in basketball, so I love the game, it's in my blood.
No, it's a great sport, man. Like, my journeys throughout playing this game, coming out of high school and heading to college, it's taken me all over the world, to be honest with you. Played in Argentina, played in France, played in Greece, played in Mexico, played in Switzerland, played in Germany, played here, traveled to Italy and all these places, it's been but the thing about it is the relationships. Yeah. Those relationships that you get when you do travel, they're irreplaceable. The friendships, the camaraderie, people become family everywhere you go. Especially when you're coaching and playing, they become your family, and you never lose touch. You never lose touch with those guys. I have relationships that go back 30 plus years, of just playing. Even every time I go to LA, first thing I get a call, Brian, if you're coming to LA, I'm picking you up. And, I'm staying with friends that I played with at UCSB. I've had a friend of mine that I played with in Switzerland, who's actually from Spain. He came and visited me here and stayed a couple of weeks with me here in Australia. It's such a great platform that we use, and it's a way. It's such a great connection tool. It's a small community. It's a large community, but it's actually quite small when you think about it, because I don't know if the world has 6 degrees of separation. I think basketball has about 3 or 4.
And that's why I feel lucky, because I got basketball like that, and I have the military guys that I've known over 30 years, and we still talk to this day, and we travel and meet up, and so I definitely get it. This game opens doors all around the world, which is great. That's why I'm glad we got Rick on here, because imagine he's seen way more than us, and it's awesome. There's no other way to say it.
I feel like I've been so fortunate. And I was talking to a guy today about networking and being in the right place, and life is timing. And we were talking today, and I was telling him, he asked, what all countries have you been to? And I named, been probably 14 or 15 different countries, and doing camps in China 6 or 8 times. I've been so lucky, and all this is, somebody else's dollar. I've been so fortunate. I love to travel, but to be able to meet all these people, and like now meeting you guys in Australia, it's like a heaven sent. Like it's a gift from heaven to know all these people. And like you just mentioned Kelvin Sampson. I said, holy Toledo, and just things like that. Because I'm older guy now, so my contacts and my network is quite large. And I always say, I don't know how many people you know, how many people know you.
There you go.
Yeah, I know this. I know Michael Jordan. I know Kobe Bryant. Yeah, but do they know you? Yeah. These drop names, but I always ask them, do they know you?
There you go.
But they know me through basketball. They don't know I'm from Daytona Beach, Florida.
Yeah. No, good, man. Good. Well, dude, look, this has been a great conversation. Probably the most laid back one we've had since we've been doing this thing, which I really think is cool. We got a lot of really good things coming up here soon that we're going to be working on. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but like we've been talking about, we are going to do a little follow-up with some former NBA players on The Last Dance. Don't know, might be a couple of weeks away. When we get to it, we get to it. But before we get out of here, man, we want to hear one of those great Ric stories, man, before we call it a day, man. You got one for us?
I got one. Like I was telling you, it's kind of short, but I think it's.
That's all right, man.
Back in this book I was telling you about, CJ, this Loose Balls.
Yeah, Loose Balls. Yeah, I got to get that. I got it on Audible. I'm just waiting.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I read it a few times, and there's just some guys in there that I know, and I'm just kind of sitting around reading those stories. And it's one right after the other. It's one in particular story. I was going from Memphis to St. Louis, and he got to the airport, and this guy was a character to begin with, but he got to the airport and he looked at his ticket, and it said departing at 12:15 and arriving at 12:15. And he said, wait a minute, because it's there. So anyway, the story goes, he walked around the airport for probably 30 minutes looking at that ticket. And finally he said, no, man, I ain't getting on no blankety blank time machine. I'm in a limousine and I'm driving to St. Louis.
I remember this story, and we'll leave the player nameless for a while, but
boy, he was a great player.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't a good player. He was a great player. But he said, no, I ain't going to get in no blankety blank time machine.
I remember that. I remember this on the ABA history of players. Yeah.
You could do a whole show on just stories from the old ABA, the fights they used to have, and boy, it's incredible. It is.
Hey,
love the ABA.
We don't have a lot of time, but growing up, like literally, I have to be honest. I was watching more ABA than NBA back then. It was man. We all just thought if we could just get like that, oh my God, Brian, I know you probably the same,
Oh yeah.
The only problem with that, there was no TV. But ABA wasn't on TV. That was the only problem with that.
Well, believe it or not, in St. Louis, which I grew up in Oklahoma.
The Spirits.
We were getting a fee because the old owners had a deal with ESPN. They had struck the most awesome deal with ESPN, and they were getting their games televised. And
wow.
I think just about 5-6 years. Don't quote me. I could be wrong, but ESPN finally just paid the owners out. And it was just so they could get out of the contract, and they got almost, I think, $300 or $400 million just to get out of the deal. Yeah. Like ESPN back in the day obviously thought that the league was going to take off, and they gotten in this deal with them. So that's how we were seeing the games. We were getting games on our TVs in Oklahoma.
All that led to the merger.
Yeah, and that led to the merger.
The 4 teams from the ABA that got merged into the NBA.
Yep, the Spurs, the Pacers, Denver Nuggets, and the Nets.
Denver Nuggets and the Nets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I went to see the old Virginia Squires because I was living near.
Oh yeah.
And
that was a team.
I tell people, I saw Julius Erving play his first ever professional game
Yep.
against Kentucky Colonels and Artis Gilmore.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
back in those days, though, the NBA would not take you if your college class had not graduated. In other words,
yeah.
no leaving early. But the ABA did. So they took a bunch of guys, that wasn't through college. I mean, Julius Erving left school early. He went to the University of Massachusetts, but there's a bunch of players.
Moses Malone.
Moses Malone.
Yep. Right out of high school.
Yep.
Well, see, that's the beauty of the ABA, that today's players and a lot of players today, they don't know the history of the ABA and the innovations that the ABA created.
Oh, yeah.
Again, the ABA was the first league to pay somebody $1 million. They were the first ones to allow early, kids to come out of college early.
Oh, yeah.
They, the 3-point line, the shot clock, the no zones, the dunk competitions, things of that nature. The cheerleaders did, and we say cheerleaders, but they made it a show.
Yeah, they did, man.
And today's game, I speak to players here in Australia, and I say, they think the 3-point line was a part of the NBA, and everybody's that. No, this is the history of the game. There's a lot from the ABA that has influenced, modern day basketball.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people just don't know the history.
Man, sorry, bro. I still remember.
You're right.
I still remember Red Auerbach saying that the 3-point shot is a joke. And, he's well respected in the game of basketball. But I still remember seeing that, and now you look at today's game, and if it's all about the 3 right now, so
yeah,
pretty crazy, pretty amazing.
Oh, the ABA was a trendsetter. They changed the world,
yeah,
as we know it, and it gave a lot of guys opportunities to play that they wouldn't have normally had.
So true.
The NBA only had, I think, 12 teams at the time.
Yeah.
And but tell these players has any questions about the ABA, go back to the 60s and 70s and Google some names.
Oh, yeah.
And some of those players and those names, it's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling. All right, guys, look, we're gonna wrap it up here, but what we're gonna do, I want to let people know pretty soon if you have any questions for Rick or Brian that you want to have answered on the show. Next show, we're going to be letting you know where you can send those to. Actually, I think you can send them now to Let's Talk at aba1on1.club, and that should reach both of them. If not, we'll set them up with their own private emails so that they get it for them. I want to thank you guys for being on the show once again every week. It's pretty cool because I like that we can kind of talk about whatever we really want to talk about here and kind of keep it about basketball. So, Rick, thank you, man. Brian, once again, great.
My pleasure.
Let's keep this thing rolling, and hopefully we'll start turning it into something as we keep growing.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Brian.
Yes.
Brian, you and CJ, I just want to remind you, it's about time, probably the next couple of days, to get car in for an oil change, a little tune-up.
Oh, yeah.
Bro.
I think it's been a while.
With that said, all right, Rick, man, you be safe over there, man, and we'll catch up.
Thank you so much.
All right, man. All right, Brian, we'll chat soon, brother.
Okay, guys. And
All
have
right,
that chat. Have that chat.
Brian, you go ahead.
Talk to Coach Calvin for me.
I'm gonna talk to you after the show, man.
Okay.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Take care.
All right.
Thanks.
All right. Peace.
Have you heard of Modere? They have some of the safest products on the planet, free from over 3,000 harmful ingredients. They send me product specials and birthday surprises, and every time I order, I could win a Modere Escape from the rewards program. The easy-to-use app means I can order anywhere, anytime. Give it a try. Download the app. Use my promo code 3i6 W8K and get $10 shopping credit on your first order. Share with friends and they get $10 as well. Modere. Stylish, safer, smarter.
Modere is a proud sponsor of ABA 101. We have lots of athletes using their liquid biocells like former NFL player Willie Harper. Have a look for yourself. You can either go to www.modere.com or www.modere.com.au. Use our show promo code 3I6W8K. Get $10 off on your first order. It costs you nothing to look. Hey guys, don't miss an episode of ABA 101. We're on Apple Podcasts, Podomatic, YouTube, and soon on Spotify, making it really simple for anyone to keep up with us on many devices. You can also just go to our website and always listen to the latest episode. But choose the best option for you. Just go to our website, www.aba101.club. Get in the club, guys. Well, that's going to do it for this week. Remember, you can keep up with every episode by subscribing via our website. Follow us on social media and tell your friends about us. Next week, new guests, more basketball tips, more basketball stories about the game we all love. Till then, be safe and keep your eyes on the ball.
Give it them dog, give him a bone. Give it them dog a bone. I give it them dog, give him a bone. Give it them dog a bone. Give him a bone.